Hey there, in today's video we are talking about my top 7 tips for how to transition from being a full-time grant writer employed in a regular job to grant writing consultant. All right, with that, let's hit it. Tip number 1. Side hustle your freelance business if you can. What do I mean by that? You're not going to be getting a great salary in your job and then quit one day and the next day pop up a freelance business that's making just as much. I mean, if you are, awesome, but for most of us, there was actually a transition that had to occur there. And so what I recommend to de-risk it financially, making this leap into consulting, is to think about it like you're running 2 parallel paths. So path 1 is your full-time gig. Path 2 is, okay, I'm gonna start building up my client base, building in my systems, landing some contract work, and you're doing that in parallel. That'll lead me to the next question, which we'll get to in a second, which is when do you know when to quit your full-time job and go into consulting full-time? We'll cover that, stay tuned. But recognize that this transition period where you're overlapping and really double timing does suck. It can suck because I know you're busy. You have kids, or you're caring for a parent, or you're volunteering, or whatever. You also just like to have time for your health and life. Okay, so doing both of those in parallel is a little bit brutal, but what it does is it de-risks it so that within certainly less than a year, preferably at that like 8-month mark, you feel comfortable with enough client work that you've already earned and have in the pipeline to justify making that leap, taking a pay cut, but knowing that you're on a growth trajectory. So a couple things to keep in mind going this route. If you're working for a federal agency, or you need to just really check what are the rules of your job contract in terms of can you have a side hustle? That said, you do need to double check this. We have a member in the Grant Writing Unicorn Collective who works for the Department of Veterans Affairs. She wants to start side hustling as a grant writer so that she can move into this as a consultant. So she did go and check that with her supervisor, and then they really sent it up the chain. And what they ultimately ruled on, if you will, was that so long as she does not write federal grants for the same department, she is okay. It is okay for her to have that side hustle business. So if you feel like it's going to make you more comfortable getting answers on that, certainly go for it. I tend to be a little bit more of a rule breaker, and I was just going to get started building my business whether I had my boss's approval or not. The other tip that you can keep in mind is, what if you roll back some of your hours so that you have a little bit more time? So I went back to, I think, 30 hours a week in the 4 months preceding quitting my job. And I didn't know exactly when I was going to quit, keep in mind, but I did know I wanted to transition. And the unfortunate thing about going down to 30 hours a week is that, frankly, you still do the work of 40 and you're only getting paid for 30. But it did at least allow me the ability to physically not be in the office 1 day a week. And that was great because then I could allocate that day to learning how to code websites, which I didn't use that knowledge immediately, but if you've seen our website lately, it's pretty awesome, right? So it was totally one of those things where investing in my technical skills, taking the time to invest in my future was totally worth it, even though I was going to get paid a little bit less, right? And it was a lot to add on top of a pretty demanding job, frankly, but it was worth it to me so that I could give myself that extra oomph and that extra go once I wanted to make the leap into doing my own thing, becoming a consultant, right? Getting out of the regular 9-to-5 grind. Okay, so that's all I want to cover on tip 1, which is if you can side hustle first, highly encourage it. Okay, now tip number 2. Do not let business setup hold you back and give you an excuse for not getting started. No, you do not need to have an LLC set up tomorrow. No, you don't need any of that. That is an excuse to getting going. Frankly, maybe you might hate being a consultant. Why would you go to all the trouble of legally setting that up if you don't even know it's something you for sure want to do? And even if you do want to do it, why have to put out all this money, right, before you've made money? I'm all about bootstrapping it. Every business I've ever grown has all been like from cash of the business. And frankly, it was always cash from consulting that paid for everything, including writing a book, the course business that we now have, right? Like all of that came from cash from consulting. So I don't want you to go into any sort of debt to make this move, right? So the method that we teach is that I want you to make your first 1,500 just to get that first project under your belt. You've done one contract, you're paid, right? Great. Preferably it's even more like 2,500. Okay, and then once I want you to be making money up to your first 15K as a sole proprietor, meaning you don't have an LLC set up. Once you hit that point and you've confirmed, okay, I do really like this. This is a blast. I'm ready to level up. Then I will show you the steps for setting up your business, setting up payroll so you can start paying yourself, setting up your taxes, setting up your bookkeeper, right? Like now we have this money that you've made to pay for properly setting up your business to truly scale. And this is where I see a lot of people get stuck, is that they kind of start the whole LLC process too soon and they don't actually have the cash, and so they don't really put the money into setting up their business systems to grow with them, and then they get really stuck at a certain revenue level where they've only made like 45 grand in the whole year because they're stuck doing all this stuff that doesn't actually make the money. But that is a separate conversation. I just want you to take away from it this: do not feel like you have to get your business set up all perfectly. You can be a sole proprietor, and I want you to do that till you've made your first 15K. Tip number 3, find clients in a way that is authentic to you. How does that work? So if you've seen any of my videos, you know how I roll, and it's all about the organic networking framework, which is using informational interviews where you go and approach someone, an organization, and have a conversation that's not actively seeking to get anything. It's truly there to learn, get to know them, build a relationship. And if you see an opportunity, you can then present, hey, I could help you with that. And the questions that we guide you through how to architect that conversation to get good results is, do they have a plan for what grants to pursue? What's their process for pursuing grants right now? What part of that process sucks that you can make better? And what often happens is you draw out, okay, they would really benefit from having a funding strategy. That leads me to tip number 4. Tip number 4, having a deliverable that gets your foot in the door and builds trust. Tip number 4, right? I'm going to say it again. Having a deliverable that gets your foot in the door and builds trust. So what we teach for that is the funding strategy. This is a standalone deliverable where you recommend, okay, here are the top 10 grants that your organization should focus on over the next 12 to 18 months. And it lays out, what project planning steps remain to be competitive. What is the order you should pursue these grants? And you've really thought through which ones are they going to have the highest return on investment and likelihood of success. And what then often happens is that you are then asked, okay, well, can you help us now pursue these grants? Great, for 2 reasons. Number 1, now you can amend your contract, and that little $2,000 contract to do a funding strategy just turned into 15, right? Which is awesome. Also, it gives you a chance to get to know that client, that organization. Were they responsive? Was the process favorable for everybody? Maybe they decide they do have the grant writing capacity in-house, they can take it inside, but at least you got paid for a deliverable that's contained within 8 weeks, right? So it's a beautiful kind of low priced offer to getting your foot in the door, especially when I know you have experience, but don't have freelance experience. So that's a way for you to kind of get your foot in the door with several organizations, and then those contracts grow. Everybody does informational interviews in the collective, but one person stands out in particular because the stats she just shared with me. She did 15 interviews in November, 8 asked for proposals, 5 were already back signed. I don't know exactly what she was charging, but let's say it was $2,000 for each. So 2 times 5 is 10. So and I bet she was charging more, honestly. But for the math, so that's $10,000 worth of funding strategy work that she'll be able to execute over the next 8 weeks, which I'm quite confident will come back with, okay, now let's amend it and pursue those grants you've recommended. So really the pipeline work in there is, honestly, probably closer to $100,000 worth of work that she is teeing up and filling into her pipeline, right? Pretty awesome. So that's a way of thinking about, what is that deliverable? And you might have some sort of other expertise, like maybe your deliverable is an organizational strategic plan or marketing plan or something that is you can apply that they all need to every client that you want to work with as a way to qualify they're a good client, but also get a contract going. Okay, let's move on. Tip number 4, leverage your LinkedIn profile. Okay, in that little description section below your name, I strongly encourage you to apply in that space your tangible transformation sentence. This is something we teach in the Grant Writing Unicorn Method. It's in our course, but I'm going to give you the high level right now. So say, helping specific identity achieve a tangible transformation so that they can avoid number 1, pain, or achieve number 1, desire. Let's break it down. Helping specific identity. So if you say helping, animal rescue nonprofits, that title, when someone searches for animal rescue or animal nonprofits, whatever, like, you're going to pop up, and it makes it very clear who you serve. And you do want to be as narrow as you can be you don't have to be fully niched down yet, but you do want to be specific enough, not trying to serve everybody or you serve nobody, which is becoming more of a truth now than ever before. Anyway, so then achieving tangible transformation. So what do? Land 50 grand of grants every year so that you can, what's the number 1 pain? Focus on the pets that you know and love and not worrying about how you're going to be funded next year. Something like that, right? So it's very, very powerful to use that little section, that tangible transformation sentence section right below your name. Definitely recommend using it. Many of the members in our program, I guess all of them, once they're certified, they're adding that, so that's helpful. And so there's ways for you to add language into what you're doing to really bolster that confidence of like, oh, okay, they've started a business. And here's the thing. You don't have to, if you're in this doing it as a side hustle phase, have to list that as like a job or a business yet. You can say you're still with your company if you don't feel like you can reveal that yet. That's okay. But if you can at least kind of get something in there on the title, you will be able to have better quality conversations leveraging your LinkedIn profile to basically create opportunities. That's where we've pulled through a lot, and many of the members in our collective are doing the same. Step number 6, don't be afraid to build a team before you're ready. Okay, this is what you will most miss about the office. And don't get me wrong, I really hate the small town or the small chatter in the coffee shop. I didn't like that. I don't miss lots of things about corporate life, like the fact that I can't go to work in sweatpants, right? Which I do when I'm not filming for you. But what you will miss is having someone you can just fire something off to and they can give you feedback. Freelancing can be very lonely. It's one of the main problems people face when they do make this shift. So how do you combat that? It's very important you find a community of people that are your people. So for us, that is the Grant Writer Collective, right? Like, there is a community there so that people can find each other to work with and to have as accountability buddies. What we often see happen is someone will say, I'm looking for someone to edit my proposal. Pay them something reasonable, like $35 an hour, right? It's totally like still a win-win. They're making money doing some work for you and you're still charging 80, 100, 120, whatever, and profiting on top of that, but you're getting more work done. It's a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario. Or just finding someone that you can go back and forth on your work with each other, and it's a 50-50 give back to each other kind of a relationship, right? So it's very, very important that you start thinking about, how do I add capacity? Because you also present yourself differently as a consultant when you can use the language we. We will do this work for you. We on your website, right? Future website. We shows more capacity than just I. How do you have a we? Well, when I first started, it was myself technically as the only employee, but I had 2 subcontractors or even just 1. But that is 2 and 2 is a we, okay? So very, very important to be focusing on that. The other piece that we'll be talking about is that especially once you hit $100,000 in revenue, that's when it's imperative. Like, you're not going to break through really a ton further than probably like 120, 140 without a team a year in revenue. So we'll help you overcome that. I know there's lots of fears around like, but what if I have to fire someone and blah, blah, blah. And even what I really wish I had done a lot earlier was getting someone to manage my inbox, getting someone to take care of those $15 an hour tasks, which is a whole separate conversation. But when the coursework, which I told you about, is like how to make 1,500, 15,000, 50, 100. And then if you want to go build a $250,000 a year consulting business, awesome, can show you how, but you're doing it with the team. So the sooner you can get comfortable with the idea of collaborating with other people, even if it's other freelancers and it's their actual businesses, the better. The better. Okay, that leads me to the final tip. Number 7, join us in the Grant Writing Collective. We would love to have you. So what is that high-level overview? You can watch a video below to get the full scoop on it, but it's a course with those several steps I just described to you. Robust, super proud of it. You won't find a single course, in my opinion, online better. Prove me wrong. I'd love to know if you can find one that's more well put together. Then coaching calls. And this is what I really like to be brought. Bring me your proposal that you're putting before a client so I can make sure you're charging enough. Pretty good chance I'm going to be pushing you to charge at least 25% more. And sometimes it's like 200% more. And then you do it and you get paid and you're like, whoa, that really paid for itself already to be in the collective by just this one client charging appropriately, right? So that's a big piece. So coaching calls happen twice a month. Bring any questions you have and we'll go over them. And then there's the community group, which is thankfully off of Facebook. We're now on this platform called Circle. It's like if Slack and Facebook made an ethical ad-free baby, that is Circle, and we love it. It's absolutely a lively place for everyone to be making connections and where we have a bunch of grant writing coaches helping you out. All right, so you can watch a video at the very bottom below and get all caught up on how the heck it works. This is just the high-level overview, but let's do a quick recap. Number 1, determine if you can side hustle without having to quit your job yet, right? Let's see if you can do that. Tip number 2, okay, don't let it be an excuse to starting by thinking you have to have a business set up. Freelance to 15K first. Tip number 3, leverage your existing network to find clients. Tip number 4, I don't even remember what it was. Crikey. Tip number 5 is changing your LinkedIn title to include your tangible transformation sentence. Tip number 6 is recognizing you're going to miss a team, so start building that sooner than you think you need it. And tip number 7, join us in the Grant Writing Collective. All right, if you've got any questions, post them in the comments below and I will be sure to respond. All right, see ya.